What's going on, guys? Average Player YGO here with an updated Spright deck profile because I actually got a side deck this time that's actually competent enough to be able to compete. If it wasn't for me misplaying, I probably would have went 4-0 at locals. And this time, I actually have cards that you can put in the extra deck. If you can't afford certain cards, and I will make sure to point those cards out to you guys when that time comes. But if you guys don't know, I always start off with the main deck, go to the extra deck, then the side. And that's basically it. We'll get right into it. And yes, we are doing the setup that we have now, as you can tell on the card, the ring effect. It's because of my new ring light. So we're going to get into it. Triple copies, a Spright blue. Main starter, you want this. You want 3 copies. Unfortunately, it has to special summon itself to gain its effect. But if you have another level 2 monster, it special summons itself for free. So, triple copies of this bad boy. He's one of the best cards in the deck. Gigantic can summon it if you want to, so it can also gain its effect off of a Gigantic, which that doesn't really matter. I play 2 copies of Jet. I don't want to play 3. I think 3 is not enough. Not good enough. So I think this is one of the cards that you have to play at a lower quantity, like 2, because it searches your spells or your traps. Obviously, you're playing spells. One card that you could play in here that I don't play is Gamma Burst, if you want to try to go for the OTK. If you're going to play Gamma Burst, obviously you should play 3. But Jet to 2, I've thought about cutting it down to 1. But it comes up when you use it with Elf from the graveyard to add a starter or whatever. And that really comes up sometimes. So that I think Jet is only good at 2. If you want to play the extra, if you want to play like an extra Smasher, you want to play like Gamma Burst, it comes up with those, but that's if you want to play it at 3, putting extras. 2 copies of Spright Red, it's your monster negate, and it also can destroy if you tribute a link to or rank 2 for that negate. Other than that, it's the same thing as all the other Spright cards. They special summon themselves for free if you have another level 2. And the last 2 Spright cards, 1 Carrot, 1 Pixies. Carrot, your spell and trap negate, special summon itself if you have another level 2. Pixies is basically your battle hand trap, because it contributes itself from the field or your hand. When you battle an opponent's monster, they battle your monster to make your card gain attack equal to your monster's card attack. So, but Carrot has the same, for Carrot though, it has the same thing as Red. You contribute a link to rank 2 to negate and destroy instead of just negate. Next is just the Frog Engine. We got 2 copies of Frog. R.I.P. Rodentonen. He's been gone for a while, but if you don't know what Swap Frog does at this point, you're a little bit gone from the scene, I guess. Next is the Nimble Engine. We played 2 copies of Angler and 2 copies of Beaver. If you want to, you can definitely play 3 copies of Angler. I would actually prefer if you played 3. I don't have 3. I'm not going to buy another one. It's actually generally an okay, decently expensive common in the game. I think I bought mine for like $10 to $15 a piece. The Beavers are super cheap. They come from the new not Megatons, the new OTS packs. So Beaver, you play it 2, but Angler, you play it 3. You can definitely do 3 and 3, but you don't want to open this as much as this. You want to be able to dump this. But if you open this and this, you can only get 1 out instead of 2. But I guess it's okay. It's not as good as what you want it to be, but you could just play the Angler instead of. You can still play another Angler if you really want to. The deck, you can definitely run it at more than 40 cards if you want, but it's okay. Next, we got a little draw engine going on in here. We got 2 copies of Hyperia, 1 copy of Capshell. This hasn't changed. Most of this deck has not changed since the last time. Other than I added an extra hand trap. Or 1 extra hand trap of one kind. I've changed out a hand trap. Just, cut some stuff down. Changed it around a little bit. The deck is exactly 40 cards, but once per turn draw, once per turn draw. But you want to play 2 Hyperia because it is also a good starter. Because it doesn't have to be special summoned or used for anything like Capshell. If it's used for a link summon, or if it's tributed, you draw a card. If it's used for a link summon, draw a card. If it's used for synchro summon, draw a card. If this card is detached from material for an XC, draw a card. So that's why it's not as good as Hyperia. Hyperia is just when it's summoned, you get to draw a card. Next on to these boss-ass hand traps, we got triple copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. I'm not going to explain her. Everybody knows what Ash does at this point. Just like the next card, triple copies of Infinite Impermanence. Probably still one of the best hand traps in the game. Super good. Activate it from your hand on your turn or your opponent's turn as long as you control no face-up cards. If you control no cards at all, sorry, you can just activate it from your hand to negate problem cards. It's a good negate bait, because if they have one Omni Negate on board, it's like the one problem card. You activate this, they have to get rid of your infinite impermanence and stop it, or their card's gonna be stopped. So either way, you're gonna basically get rid of their negate. So if you guys saw, I didn't have an extra one since last time I had 2. This time now I have 3, and now the hand trap that I put in here is DD Crow, because I took out Crossout Designator. I put in DD Crow. This card is actually pretty nutty, and it really doesn't show up against Flu because it doesn't really do anything, other than if you want to give them access to another D shifter. But it's not as good as the Bastiles. I actually debated on buying the Bastiles, but in the long term, I decided against it. It's still good. You can still banish a card like Lebellion. You can banish that so it can't summon itself. If you're playing against Sprites, you can banish whatever target they have that they want to do. It doesn't have to be a light or dark monster. It's any monster. You can also banish cards that are the target for Smashers, because Smashers is all one effect. Smashers can target a card, you can banish it. Smashers won't resolve. So I guess it's good. It's supposedly not as good as the Bastiles. I think it's better because it doesn't have to be a light or dark monster. It's just one card in your opponent's graveyard. So yeah, and the last hand trap I counted as a hand trap called by. Don't know what this does, then you're under a rock. Triple copy is a Spright starter. One of the best starting cards in the game. You open this, generally full combo, because starter, you just special summon out your blue, summon out another one, XC and the Gigantic to do whatever, and then you can start popping off. You can even summon Swap Frog if you want to, whatever, it doesn't really matter. I'll go over some synergy with some cards too if you guys want me to at the end. I think it would be kind of cool, just kind of show you guys like one card combos and stuff like that you can do. But that actually might be for another video. Let's do it for another video. But this summons a card out. Even though you take damage, you don't activate one of these, and you're locked in the 2s. But that doesn't really matter because all you do is summon 2s anyway. Last card is one copy of Spright Smashers. This card is insane. For all one effect, banish a card from your graveyard. That's a Spright. Banish one level 2, rank 2 or link 2 on your side of the field. To banish one card your opponent controls, all one effect. It's not as good as it was because Mystic Mind's gone, but it doesn't target. So you just banish one card your opponent controls, it's problematic. It has protection, like targeting protection, it's gone. Can't be destroyed, it's gone. So it's really good. It gets rid of like Mechanic City, Avermax, whole bunch of other cards. It's a good card to bait out negates too. So if your opponent, has those negates or whatever, has that judgment, you want to just try to get it out. Another card, Ready Fusion. It's a starter card, but it's not. It's a starter / extender card, because you don't have to control any cards. You don't not have to control any cards for this. So you can control monsters, or you don't have to. It doesn't really matter. You can activate it, pay 1,000 life points, and you get a free level 2 on the field with the extra deck monster with Ready Fusion. So yeah, it gets you a free level 2 at the start, so you can summon a blue, or mid combo gets you another level 2, or if you get interrupted, it gets you a free level 2, so you can at least extend a little bit farther. In the last deck profile, I had 2 of those, and now I'm down to 1. I think the 1 is better than the 2, so I don't draw 2 of them at once. And last card, this card's also one card starter, is Foolish Burial. Love Foolish, it's a super good card. It starts a lot of your combos in this deck. It can start your combo in this deck easily. Next, the Strip Off is Cosmic Cyclone. I don't go anywhere without my Cosmic Cyclone in my main deck, if you guys haven't realized that, since the last Spright deck profile had Cosmic Cyclone and Dino. I had Cosmic Cyclone. It's super good. Targets spell or trap, banishes it, so it gets rid of a whole bunch of problem stuff. Especially since it doesn't send it to the graveyard. So Phantom Knights get smoked. The Tearlet's Field Spell get smoked. Anything that your opponent plays, especially cards like this, they basically have to stop it or it's getting smoked. Like Solemn Judgment, 3 copies in the main deck. It's one of the cards that I want to go first. This deck is built for me wanting to go first, and this is why I want to go first. Mainly, I can set up a huge board, but cards like Dark Ruler No More and stuff like that really hurt. So Solemn Judgment is going to stay in here, and that's why I play Solemn Judgment, because the cards you can't stop with your monsters, you can stop with Solemn Judgment. Alright, next for the extra deck. For the Spright extra deck monsters, we have 2 copies of Elf, 1 copy of Sprint. And I think this is the best ratio. You could play 3 Elf if you want to, but duels generally don't go on long enough for you to play 3 Elf. So, Sprint, I generally summon this first because it can dump any level 2 to your graveyard. You can send your Angler or whatever. So if I can make this, it gets me to go farther. And then Elf comes up because it's one of your best cards during each player's turn. Recur level 2 or rank 2 if your opponent controls a monster. So yeah, that's why. These are the ratios though. Elf is only like if I use Elf already, and I can make another one. I can just use this to go into my gigantic, or whatever. Especially since Sprint is actually pretty stupid. You keep Sprint on board. If you have Sprint like this for Elf or whatever, even if you make Elf first, make Sprint last, doesn't really matter. Now your Sprint can't be targeted by card effects. And then when a monster is special summoned to the field, which it can do off of an Elf, which they play together well, it can detach material off an XC monster you control to send one card on the field back to the hand. Or shuffles it back to the hand. It returns it to the hand. So targets a monster in the field, returns it to the hand. And then Elf obviously can fuel it because it can special summon a monster back to your side of the field. So you can summon back a card like Toad and detach off a gigantic to get rid of a card. And you also keep your protection. So that's why I only play one Sprint, because after that, because with all the interruptions this deck puts up with the Elf and the Sprint, with IP Masquerena, which actually comes up here now, and IP Masquerena, you can do a lot with this deck. You can OTK if you really want to. Gamma Burst makes that even more possible. You can OTK if you want to. You can extend farther beyond if you really want to. But you really don't have to worry about Nibiru. IP is a good card because you can make whatever you want, honestly, with that thing. But IP can cause an interruption, especially if you want to play cards like Nightmare Unicorn or whatever. It causes another interruption on your opponent's turn, but you generally have enough with like Red, Carrot, Sprint, Judgments, Imperms, Ashes. You generally have enough to make your opponent not be able to play. So that's it for your rank 2s though for this deck. And enough of me trying to like drag out why these ratios are a thing. It just works for me, I guess. That's to put it shorter. So thank you for anybody who's paying attention, got through all that rambling. All these ratios because I think is because that's how I like to play it, and I think it's best this way. And for high ranks, which is what we barely go into, but they're game winners if we do. So we got Avermax, which is good because we can summon it out with like Red, Carrot, and stuff like that to use those to fuel negates, depending on what your opponent wants to use. And then this guy just becomes a big beater to beat over whatever you want. BLS is good because I can destroy a card by battle. I can destroy a card by battle and then banish a card on the field. It's basically when more card gains a second attack during the next turn, or it gains 1500 attack permanently. So, choose your poison. Both of these are really good cards. This requires 3 different names. All your cards are different names. And 2 monsters from the extra deck. That's where IP Masquerena comes from. You can make both if you really want to. But I would make Avermax first over Blackluster Soldier. But this did come up in my locals against Tier Limit, because they made Elf, and I ended up banishing the wrong card. But it doesn't really matter. So, that was my misplay. That's why I lost. Because I hit on the field, I hit Smashers into the Elf instead of the Havness. Because he was at 1,500 life points, he's at 3k, Elf was at 14. I could have just won like that. And if I didn't win, whatever he had face down, I could have just banished it. So, yep, misplaying, whatever. I learned from it. I won't do it again next time. And the Ready Fusion target, it's a level 2 normal monster, Elvain, the Essence of Vanity. All it does is just give you free level 2 so you can start going off. And next, 2 copies of Gigantic Spright. And how the mighty have fallen in price, dude. This card was like $40 a while ago, and now I literally bought one of them for like $3. Card is really cheap right now. So, as Sprite's getting cheaper, I would recommend playing him, because they're getting cheaper. And now we're getting into the cards that if you can't afford them, you shouldn't be playing them. So, Cat Shark's not one of them, because Cat Shark can help you with an OTK. I think that card's like pennies. But the one card that you can replace is totally awesome. Amish, one of the guys I used to play with at locals, his name is Larry. He calls him John Cena. So if you don't want to play totally awesome, cheaper option for it would be playing Phantom Knight's Accursed Javelin. So you can negate a monster on the field until the end of this turn. And its attack becomes 0, so you can literally just beat over it with problem cards. And it does, so Toad is an Omni negate. This is only a monster negate, and it's only on your turn unless you have a Phantom Knight card, but you don't want to have a Phantom Knight card on it because they're all level 3s. So, you can play Cursed Javelin instead of Toad. I understand Toad is still up there in price, like $20, $25, $30. Cursed Javelin almost accomplishes the same thing. It's just a way cheaper option if you want to play that. Onibi Maru is another rank 2 that we have in here. Fairly cheap card, so I wouldn't say you have to replace it. But Sky Cavalry, it's one of the more pricier options. You want to play Sky Cavalry, you can't afford it. You got Mannequin Cat. So Sky Cavalry can't be destroyed by battle while it has material. And it can return a card on the field to the deck, to the hand. Mannequin Cat, it can just summon a card to your opponent's graveyard and get you a free card. So if you want to play Mannequin Cat instead of Sky Cavalry, you can. It's not as good. You can also do it over Onibi Maru, but Onibi Maru's pennies, I'm pretty sure. So, but that's it for my rank 2 engine that's not the Spright cards. And lastly, we gotta play Zeusy Boy. I haven't actually seen this card at all. I've thought about taking it out for a Mannequin Cat because I think Mannequin Cat's pretty good. But Zeus doesn't really come up. Other than in later rounds, I've made Zeus just to, clear board, swing for 3k. Hopefully that's enough to kill him. But other than that, it doesn't really ever come up. It only came up once a couple weeks ago at locals. So that's it for the extra deck. Now onto this actually fancy side deck. So I would say this is almost a typical Spright side deck. But 3 copies of D-Shifter, you can play D-Shifter in this deck. As long as you use it on your opponent's turn and you're playing second, you can play through D-Shifter because your combo is now under your control. Other than your opponent interrupting your Toad or whatever, your combo has to change a lot, and that can cause mistakes. So D-Shifter, if you're going second, is really good. It's really oppressive. The card is stupid. Anything sent to the graveyard is banished instead. As long as you have no cards in your graveyard, you can send it to you from your hand to the graveyard. So D-Shifter, and the deck can play with D-Shifter, and it can play through it. It's just, like I said, you don't want to get hit by it. You want to use it so you can do what you want, if that makes sense. But if your opponent shotguns it against you, you're solid. 1 copy of Red Resonator. We have to have our going on the time card. We hate losing with lower life points or hate having to have a tie because life points are the same. So Red Resonator, we'll change that and have you win. Next is triple copies of the Crossout Designator that I took out of the main deck. I think this should be just a placeholder card. I might put this back in my Dino extra deck, not extra deck, side deck. I think this is a placeholder card. I'm not sure. If anything, I'd use it for, an extra way to stop Dark Ruler no more, or an evenly matched. I don't know yet. I've thought about taking those out and putting in double non-fusion areas. Because you flip this against your opponent, they can't fusion summon. Tier's going to have a tough time. Deathspeed's going to have a tough time. Predaplant, whoever plays that anymore. But I've thought about taking those 3 out, putting in 2 non-fusion areas. And I'll let you know what happens this Sunday when I go to locals again. Next, triple copy Dark Ruler no more. Because enough interruptions can hurt you. And you can't play through, if you can't play through enough interruptions, then obviously you can't play the game. But when you do have enough, when your opponent has interruptions and you have Dark Ruler no more, unfortunately, they can't do anything. And it's not once per turn. So if your opponent judgments your first one, you can just activate another one if you have it. Say goodbye to all your monster effects. Are you going to OTK them this turn? Yeah, probably not, because you can't deal damage. But now you're breaking their board, and you're going to make it to where it's impossible for them to play the next turn, because they most likely used all their resources to make that board. So you play Dark Ruler no more. If you want to go more expensive than Dark Ruler no more, play Droplets. So your opponent only takes half damage. But I'd play Droplet over Dark Ruler no more if you can afford it. Dark Ruler no more is the cheaper version. And I'll actually be surprised to say I spent $10 on each of these per 3 copies evenly matched for the side deck. If you're not drawing Dark Ruler no more, you're drawing evenly matched. Evenly matched is so damn good. Banishes everything face down, gets rid of a whole bunch of crap. And you don't have to worry about not being able to OTK. I mean, you have to worry about not being able to OTK because you you generally want to activate it in mid-battle phase or at the end of the battle phase on your first turn, if you're going second. So you won't be able to attack, but you're still going to get rid of your opponent's whole board. And the only bad thing is that they can respond to it, which sucks. But I think evenly matched is super good, and I think it's slept on. That's probably why the price fell, because I don't think people think it's that good anymore. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Like I do with all my deck profiles, I change them a whole bunch. 1 week it'll be, 3 blue, 1 week it'll be 2 blue, whatever. But, you know what? How much time I've done? I've done 20 minutes. Let me just show you guys one thing that you can do as, like, a basic starting hand. Alright, you can Swap Frog, Angler. Right? Swap Frog, Angler. Swap Frog's effect, you discard the Angler, summon itself, Angler effect, summon 2. So, and then you can also chain block with this. You can chain 2, chain 1, because they both happen as a trigger on summon and when it's sent. So, chain 2, chain 1, you send the Swap Frog, Angler, summon out 2. Now you have free access to Toad, basically, unless your opponent hits you with Shifter at this point. But this is super good. Just those 2 cards can start you with a big combo. Foolish Burial basically does the same thing unless you have one, except you'd have one less body on board. So that's it for like a basic tutorial. I will do a combo video later. I do have to figure out how far the ring light goes because, I'm still getting used to it. It's still, a new item to me. So, gotta figure it out, I guess. Anyway, hope you guys have a good day. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll talk to you later. Peace out.